This is the Lay Stories podcast designed to bring joy, connection, and creativity to viewers like you by bringing extraordinary stories of everyday people to life with exquisite lei and flowers from Hawaii. Joining me today is my friend and former coworker, Alessia Owen. She is also known as Bravayana, as a public figure on Instagram and YouTube and all the social media platforms. And we are going to be making lei. We've already begun using some flowers that are pretty significant. So I wanted to share that in thinking about today's conversation, I thought of Alessia and her multicultural, or her dual cultural identity, and Brazil and Hawaii are two of those places that she calls home. And so this orange flower here is called ko, and it's a native Hawaiian flower, and it's bright, just like her, very colorful and kind of fun, just in its texture and fluffy and just different. So that's this orange guy. And then the green and yellow represents Brazil. So this is Song of India, and we've ribboned it to form little pops of color throughout the lei. And then our last flower is Stephanotis to add a little bit of, I don't know, white purity maybe, and scent as well. So we have begun making our lei, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you and just let the viewers in on your life, your story, and what you have in store for the future, but also where you've come. So thank you for being here, and I'm excited for this. Let us start with blending, because we've been blending colors and textures, flowers and leaves. So I shared about the meaning behind this lei, but what does this signify for you? Like the Hawaii, the Brazil, the Stephanotis. What does that symbolize for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
This is super exciting because seeing your journey of, I remember one of the first times you made the lei po'o and we went to the beach and we had this whole photo shoot. And so I feel like for my whole life, it's just been identity and who am I. And looking at this, that's just the word is identity. Yeah. And I love how you picked out the flowers for me, which is super sweet.
By the way, we didn't even
talk about it.
Talk about this, which is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
I love the orange. Orange is like one of my favorite colors right now. So I just think that this is me. That I love that you picked it out. It's Brazil, and then it's native Hawaii flower, which is super important to me. I feel like I have walked through a process of who am I? What is my culture? I don't know where I belong for so many years, and now I feel like I'm at the place where I'm like, no, I know who I am. I know where I come from. I know my roots, and I know where I'm going and how I'm going to take it to the future, wherever I go. I was born and raised on Oahu, and my grandparents immigrated from Brazil in the 1960s. So this has been home forever, since, before I was born.
Yeah.
You're local. Yeah, I am local. I'm a local girl. Loud and proud. Yes. My mom was born here. My cousins were born here. This is home to me, and it will always be home. And I was very fortunate to go to Brazil like every 4 and 4 years. Like my family made it so adamant, was very adamant about you need to speak Portuguese and you need to know our culture. And I hated it at the time because I was like, I live in Hawaii and I want to speak English and do my own thing. Yeah. But I'm so grateful now because nobody can take that away from me. It was something that I learned, and it's up here, whether I want to forget it or not, it's there forever. Yeah. And so being able to mesh and blend with when I'm here in Hawaii or when I'm in Brazil, it's this strong identity of I carry the aloha spirit, which is very Brazilian and very Hawaii too. That's right. I feel like both cultures are very similar in loving, honoring, family all the time. We know how to party.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so.
And cook.
Yeah. Really good food.
Mm-hmm.
Local Hawaii food and Brazilian food.
Wow. That blend must be good.
Yes. And so I, grew up. Obviously, I'm white. So that was really hard growing up in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And just even growing up in Neva Beach, people would yell and be like, oh, haole girl, you know, and I'd be like, but I'm from here, like, I don't know. So I saw this thing where I would always have to maybe show my Brazilianness to the people here to kind of be accepted, or like, oh, I'm not a haole girl, like, I'm from Brazil, or like, you know, I would have to just somehow prove myself in a way to be accepted. And that was very exhausting, let me be honest.
Yeah, because you were never enough just as you were. Like, you had to always conform or try to chameleon into something else that, wasn't natural to you.
It wasn't natural.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, whenever people would say, oh, she's from Brazil, I would just let it slide, because I'm like, yeah, I guess I am, just if that's the way you'll accept me, you know? And so I just kind of went through that phase, and going to Brazil all the time, I was known as the gringa, the foreigner. So it's funny how it's like in both places where I'm supposed to be from, I'm this foreigner, and I don't know where I belong.
So you bring up a super relatable topic of, like, basically fitting in and being accepted, which everyone hopes to belong and feel like they have a home somewhere. And I wonder what that was like for you. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things like haole and what the word was, gringa. Yeah. So what is that like for you? Talk about that journey of finding your place and blending, because that sounds like a huge long process, possibly. You know, like talk to us, or walk us through what that blending process has looked like or is looking like right now.
Yes.
Finding your place.
Finding my place.
Choosing, or having to choose, or being stuck in between.
So I remember so I had this identity thing here, right, of like not being good enough. And I remember one year we went to Brazil, and I was very shy. Like, I did not like speaking Portuguese because I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel like it was as good as like my cousins there, or whatever the case may be. And so I remember this one day I woke up, and I was, you know, like anyone would go and get breakfast. I think I was around like 9, 8 at the time, around there. And I remember my auntie was like, oh, did you eat? Like, what do you want to eat? And I said, there was bread, right? So I was like, oh, I want to eat bread. And she was like, do you want 1 or 2? But like, so 1 pão and then 2 pães. So it's like different if there's multiple, right? So I said, I want 2 pães, which was wrong. And she started laughing at me, and it took me years for me to speak Portuguese after that, because I was so ashamed, because it was like, what am I if I can't, like, I'm not Brazilian enough, I'm not Hawaii enough, whatever that means. And so I was just always very confused, and then I was just like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you speak English then, you know? Like, I was very upset. And so I fast forward, I met my now ex-boyfriend, right? And I started speaking Portuguese because he couldn't speak English. And then thank God for that, because now I'm like, I speak Portuguese, so thank you. And, but I always, like, within the last few years, I would go to Brazil, and I felt like my style would always change. And I noticed this theme that every single time I went, I felt more confident. I felt more myself. I felt more joyful, and like I felt like a woman, if that makes sense. And here I didn't feel like that, because like I'm a Haole girl. Like, what local boy wants to be with me, you know? And so I was just like, whatever. And I noticed that my style would change every single time I would go to Brazil. And I was wearing more color. And before I would just wear black, honestly. Like, I've always loved like streetwear and hip hop and all that stuff. And I don't know, I just liked baggy clothes and whatever. And so I felt very different being in Hawaii, and then I felt very different when I was in Brazil. Like, I was very confident. And so I noticed this shift, and I would mesh to whatever that was.
I feel like I met you around the time that, during that season of streetwear, and then I would see you go to Brazil. I mean, not see you go, but
social media,
and I would kind of see you.
Who is this girl?
Yeah, a little bit with the outfit shift, but I also knew that everybody's sense of style and creative expression shifts in the different seasons. So, how would you describe yourself now? Like, who is Alessia? And you can include your fashion sense, or you can include just who you are in terms of Brazilian or American or Hawaiian. Who is Alessia today?
Alessia today, is just Alessia. She's Bravaiana, which is like being Brazilian, but also from Hawaii. And you coined that term. And I coined that term.
That's so cool. Bravaiana.
Yeah. So if you don't know, the slippers, Havaianas, means Hawaiians.
Yes.
And so that was like my whole, when I made the name, I was like, I would love to be sponsored by them one day.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. So I remember growing up and seeing like the slippers at the store. Everyone wears them in Brazil. And I was like, oh, like they're from Hawaii like me. But then like, but they weren't, you know? So I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Yeah. So anyways.
You're Brazilian Hawaiian.
I mean, I'm not Hawaiian by blood, but my culture, like culturally, I am, like my culture is Brazil and Hawaii. Yeah. And it will always be. Yeah. I have a very strong sense of gratitude for being from Hawaii. I mean, if you threw me in the mainland, I would be like, I'm not like you guys. Like,
you'd feel different.
This is not me. Yeah. You know, and then having a Latin background, it's even worse because I'm like, why are you wearing shoes in the house? Like, it's just weird for me, you know? Yes. So I think today I am Bravaiana, and I have also coined the term tropical streetwear. Okay. Because I love my streetwear. Okay. And I love the tropical prints. And so whenever I was in Brazil, I would always wear very tropical, colorful stuff. And then when I'd come home, I'd just be like, back to streetwear. Oh. And then I was like, but why can't I do both?
I like that.
So I think a lot of my identity shift and just trying to figure myself out was, you don't need to be in a box. You don't need to be from Hawaii, or you don't need to be from Brazil. You can be both and. And so why not create out of the box, or do the thing that you want to do and feel most comfortable? And so with that was Bravaiana, and was my tropical streetwear.
I love it. And that's kind of what you're wearing right now. Yes. You got the streetwear underneath. I'm just noticing. Yes. And the Bravaiana, or the Brazilian on top. I love it. Wow. Okay. So a journey of acceptance, I feel like, too. Of like, you're saying both and, right? Both can exist together. One doesn't have to be apart from the other. Yeah. It's, you're Brazilian and Hawaiian, or you carry those cultures. What do you feel like you've taken, being rooted in both places, like you've taken from those cultures, like values? You mentioned family earlier, and I think maybe even cuisine, like food, but talk to me about what it was like to be raised in a Brazilian home in Hawaii, and that either value paralleling or clashing.
I think for sure family. My family's very involved in each other's lives. It's not like, oh, like that's just my family and like I only see them whenever. Like, no, like we're very involved in each other's life. Yeah. And it's like, it's just normal. And I feel like with Hawaii families, like that's it too. It's just like, it's everything. It's not like, oh yeah, that's just my auntie, uncle. It's like, no, like this is my life, you know? It's about legacy. And I feel, if anything, it's a legacy that I want to leave behind is just the beauty of the Aloha spirit, the beauty of honoring people, the beauty of respect. And I think that's one thing too that Brazilian culture carries very strongly is like just respect. Like if you're in the elevator, they will say good morning to you. And I just thought that was so weird. Like every time I went to Brazil, it was like, good morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why are you talking to me? But it's like, I see you, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just very life-changing seeing like different cultures and trying to blend that in here. And even when I like now, if I'm in the elevator, I'm like, good morning. But we don't say that, you know, it's just weird. But I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful though.
It is cool. It is cool. Do you find yourself still kind of going between the two, or do you feel pretty rooted and settled in your identity now?
I feel pretty rooted. I spent 3 months in Brazil now, and I was processing. Because I was like, you know, I'm just so tired of like, you know, every time I go to Brazil, like I wear a certain clothes and like, and I would bring back clothes that I wouldn't wear in Hawaii. But I would buy it because I was in the mindset of like, oh yeah, I'm so bubbly and bright. And then I would bring it back and I would never wear it. Like it would still have the tags on it. And so then I found myself like taking those clothes back and then wearing it there. And then I had this moment where like just one day I was like, I'm tired of this. And I think with that, you need to take faith steps too. Like change is action. And so there were days when I was here, like I would gravitate towards my like more baggy streetwear clothes and like just want to be invisible and not talk to people. But I would challenge myself and be like, no, like go put on your colorful clothes. And color actually makes you more bubbly and more confident and more like, I don't know, you just end up talking to people more and smiling more. And so I felt like that was my action step of taking authority in that and being like, no, like you don't have to be this boring person here. Like you can shine here too. And there's a space for you to do that.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I know you're a creative and we're doing something very creative right now and kind of blending different textures and colors and scents and yeah, just kind of flowing with our creative process. But what role does creativity play in your life, and what would you describe your creative expression style to be?
Creativity is everything to me. I am a creative.
What does that mean?
I think whether it's making lei, whether it's painting or drawing or doodling or taking photos, I think that's my main avenue of creativity is fashion and video and photos. Oh, put me in front of a camera.
Love it.
I will slay all day. And I love to wake up in the morning and I'm like, what's my vibe today? What am I feeling? What are the colors that I want to identify with today? And I believe that God is the ultimate creator. And if I am a reflection of him, then I will be creating too.
Beautiful.
And so whether that's clothes or taking photos randomly, selfies, whatever the case may be, I am all about it.
What's your approach to these creative expressions, like photography and video, like film and fashion? Like what's your process like? Do you order things out? What's your inspiration also?
I definitely am not a planner.
Okay.
I think as creatives, we just go and we flow.
Yes, go and we flow.
So I find my vibe of the day.
Okay.
And if it's orange, then I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing some orange today.
Yeah.
And Whether it's, you know, walking around Ala Moana, going through stores and being inspired, or going to the beach, or staring at a tree. It's just very different for me.
Sure.
And sometimes I'm inspired by a conversation with someone, like we're doing now. And I have a conversation, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to a coffee shop today because that inspired me to create.
Yeah.
And I love being around people. I feel like we can have that synergy, even if we don't talk, right? If I'm around somebody and I'm like, oh, that girl's outfit is so cute, like, yes. And then I, you know, start editing photos of like my past outfits or whatever the case, and then I get inspired to edit my YouTube videos. I think it's just inspiration daily, wherever it is, whether it's flowers, whether it's an outfit, a conversation, you're not limited. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about creativity is there's no limits, there's no boundaries.
It also seems like you're open to it, right? Like you're open to however it comes to you, whether it is a conversation or staring at a tree or a child or just simply observing your surroundings.
Yes.
Right? So I know this about you, but I want to go there and I want to talk about observing your surroundings and finding what happens to you, what goes on inside of you when you're out and open to all these inspiration, I don't know, pour-ins, like portals.
I love this.
Yes.
This is something that I carry very heavily, is observing and finding God in everything.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen Pixar movies where the little ball, the Easter eggs.
Yes.
We got to look for those Easter eggs everywhere we go because God is always speaking. And are we listening? Okay, for example, yesterday, I was having a hard time and I was at a coffee shop and I was sitting outside and then I could just hear the birds chirping and I was like, chirp, 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 and I was just, okay, God, you're here.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe God loves birds. If you see all the different types of colors and the toucans.
The toucans.
God loves birds. So I'm sitting there and I'm hearing the chirping and I'm like, just breathe. Just breathe. Look at the tree. Look for the birds. And then I see these, you know, the regular kind black birds, you know. And then all of a sudden I see this beautiful yellow and green bird.
Yellow and green. I'm sorry, but yellow and green.
I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah.
Yellow and green is the theme here. Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
And then I started crying.
Okay.
Because I was able to see the sign that God was giving me and speaking to me. And he was like, it's okay. Just look at the birds. And you don't see that every day.
No.
And it was funny because like the blackbirds that were with each other, and then this yellow-green bird was just by itself. And I just
that's kind of symbolic.
Yeah. I just felt like God was just speaking to me and he's like, it's okay to be different.
You're just marching to the beat of your own drum.
Yeah. So it's simple things like that where he's in everything.
Yeah.
He's in traffic. Did you know that?
Hey, now I do.
He's in traffic.
Did you know that?
There might be somebody in the car in front of you, behind you, to the side of you that is going through a rough day.
Yeah.
And just needs what you carry. Is it a smile that changes their day?
Yeah.
Are you praying for the person next to you? You don't know what's going to happen with that prayer, but you're just giving away the aloha that you carry.
So there's this childlikeness that I'm sensing.
Always.
That you carry also, because you said, this is what I carry, right? So I'm hearing like this wonder and awe in the presence of creation, in the presence of our Creator, and being open to the inspiration that He feeds you, whether that's through nature or through people or through experiences. And how would you say someone could cultivate that childlike wonder if they don't have it or they want it? Like, how do you? Because it's kind of hard when you think of today's stressors, and you know, we're millennials and we're adulting, and that's for as long as we are here on this earth is the adulting life, and that can be very, very hard and stressful and lots of anxiety and emotion. So how do you find and cultivate that childlike wonder?
I think it's pausing One of the things that I love doing is going to Diamond Head Lookout. And I would do that often when I just felt so overwhelmed. I would sit there and I would see how small the surfers were. And I would see the waves it looked like it's in slow motion. But I was also in the water once at the Diamond Head Beach Park. And it's rough in the waters. So being able to know that when you're in it, it can be scary, but when you're outside, you're like, oh, like it just looks so simple and so small. And so I think a lot of times I will dial back and I'll zoom out of the big picture.
I love that.
And be like, okay, am I going to worry about this problem 5 years from now? Am I going to worry about this conversation tomorrow, next week? Because let me tell you, a lot of my stressors and problems from a year ago, even 2 weeks ago, I don't really remember. And I think your first, thing that you should do is get around some kids.
Get around some kids.
You need to get around some kids.
Kids are awesome.
They just know how to be a kid. And I feel like if God is our Father, we are some kids.
That's right.
And we could be babies in God's eyes. So it's like, why am I stressing? Like, if you see a kid, they don't stress about anything.
That is a beautiful way to send our viewers off, encouraging them to be childlike and find the wonder and awe that's around and be open to encountering God and his beauty and how he's speaking to us, and also embracing how he's made them wonderfully and fearfully and full of aroma and color and life and light. And so this, my friend, is for you, and you're making yourself one as well. But this is Bravaiana, everyone. This is Bravaiana.
It is.
This is Alessia, the fun, the childlike, the very sweet, the Brazilian, the Hawaiian, learning to fuse her identities of both and learning to dance in between and encouraging us to do the same. So I hope this story encouraged you, inspired you to find your own identity and be open to what's out there and being inspired by God's creation and all the things that he's placed just right in front of you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Alessia, for being here, and I hope you enjoy this lay. Bye.